And it is a new day here on Breakfast Central. Thank you very much to our viewers here in Nigeria and across the continent. Thank you for joining us. Those watching us on YouTube also, it's a beautiful Tuesday morning, and we hope that you enjoy the next 2 hours with us as we break down some conversations on the biggest stories happening across Nigeria. I am Osaogi Ogbawan.
And I am Olive Emodi. Very delighted that you're joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. So many big stories to look at. We'll be bringing up some updates regarding the Nabiha case. Unfortunately, it seems that there has been further chaos that has been carried out and meted out on innocent Nigerians regarding kidnapping. We're looking at the state of insecurity in Nigeria. This morning, we're also joined by Adebola Adetuba, who brings us breakfast headlines. Good morning, Adebola.
Good morning, Osaogi and Olive. Glad to be here. How are you guys doing this morning?
Oh, very well, thank you.
We're doing fantastic. We all have a touch of blue this morning. I'm not sure why, but...
kind of similar to what happened yesterday. With
yeah, actually.
Yes.
What is one of the big stories that you might be sharing with us this morning, or that is, of course, getting your attention?
Well, it's got to be insecurity. I mean, the rise in insecurity, like you rightly mentioned, Olive, Nabiya's case where, you know, she was killed. And then we're looking at the remaining, I have 5 siblings being released. The Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, and that's Professor Issa Pantomi, has said a friend of his is willing to release a sum of 50 million to help secure the release of Nabiya's remaining siblings. Beyond these ransom payments, it's really disheartening because I have a friend whose younger brother was kidnapped in Abuja. I mean, the rise in insecurity is saddening. I'm hoping the government can do something about it. I'm hoping security officials can rise up to the task and help us curb this menace of insecurity ravaging Nigeria.
It's getting closer and closer. You've mentioned, you know, someone yesterday, Dashan on the show mentioned, she knows someone who's been kidnapped. It's getting closer and closer. And if we don't nip it in the bud, like they say in Nigeria, everybody go collect. And, you know, it's unfortunate that there's become a very popular prayer that says, may Nigeria not happen to you. Another conversation that's, you know, come out of the former minister, Issa Pantami, is the NIN and SIM conversation and using that to track the kidnappers. But that's another conversation we hopefully will delve into shortly. Adebola, we'll have you bring us breakfast headlines shortly, but let's first share what's happening this morning on Breakfast Central.
Insecurity, the PCC calls for state of emergency in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory.
As they should. Nigeria's inflation rate rises to 28.9% is one story that we're looking at this morning. What this means we'll be exploring as well.
Also, roadmap to winning in 2024, how to stay motivated, and a lot more.
And we'll be looking at reawakening Nigeria's reading culture. Younger people starting to get more and more into the culture of reading. We also will be reviewing the front pages of the newspapers as we do every morning. All these and more on Breakfast Central, but now let's bring you breakfast headlines.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines here on News Central TV. I am Adebola Adetuba. Let's begin in Nigeria, where the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Toga, says Nigeria's participation at the year's World Economic Forum will provide an opportunity to woo foreign investors to Nigeria. He adds that Nigeria's attendance holds great economic benefit for the country. Vice President Kashim Shettima is the leader of Nigeria's delegation to the annual event at Davos, Switzerland. No fewer than 52 other heads of state, including China's President Xi Jinping and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, as well as over 1,500 CEOs and chairpersons of the largest companies in the world, are expected at the global event. Rivers State House of Assembly has invited 9 former commissioners who resigned from Governor Siminalayi Fubara's cabinet for fresh screening and confirmation. They resigned in December 2023 following a feud between Fubara and his predecessor, Nyesom Wike. Clerk of the Rivers House of Assembly, Emeka Amadi, says they are expected to appear before the lawmakers on Wednesday. The development is part of the resolution reached after Fubara and Wike agreed to end the political feud when the President Bola Tinubu intervened. And let's also tell you that inflation in Nigeria has risen to its highest rate in more than 27 years. Nigeria's Bureau of Statistics says the rate that the prices were increasing over the years was up for the 12th straight month. On average, the price of goods has risen to just under 29% compared to a year ago. The Statistics Office says the rise in the cost of basic foodstuff, including bread, fruits, and eggs, was higher. Staying in West Africa, Liberia's outgoing president, George Weah, says he has no plans to run for the top job again after his defeat in recent elections. Weah won the presidency in 2017 but lost in November polls to Joseph Boakai, who is due to be inaugurated on 22nd of January. He did not reveal what he plans to do next, but he says he would work for peace and prosperity of Liberia. Weah won praise for conceding and promoting a non-violent transition in a region marred by coups. In Burkina Faso, a former head of police has been abducted by unidentified gunmen. Lieutenant Colonel Everard Somda was taken from his home in the capital Ouagadougou on Sunday. He has been sacked in October, a week after 4 police officers were detained in connection with alleged coup plot. Several kidnappings have been reported recently in the West African country. Sarson Anselm Kambao, an influential businessman, was abducted by intelligence agents in September. Still in West Africa, Senegal's President Macky Sall has inaugurated a network of 100% electric buses in Dakar. The buses are designed to transform public transport and reduce emissions in the West African nation's traffic-jammed capital. The bus rapid transport, which cost around 640 million euros and received financial support from the World Bank and the UN, aims to carry 300,000 passengers a day and half journey times via a system of buses running on dedicated lanes. In East Africa, where political tensions is running high in the Comoros, with violent incidents reported one day after the Indian Ocean island nation held a presidential vote, Comorans are awaiting official result from Sunday's first round election, which is expected to show incumbent leader President Azali Assoumani with a comfortable lead. But supporters of the 5 opposition candidates have accused electoral authorities of delaying voting in their electoral strongholds and harassing polling observers. The results of the first round is expected sometime this week, but tension is already rising in the Comoros' 3 islands, Grand Comore and Juan and Moheli, home to about 870,000 people. And that's a wrap on Breakfast Headlines. It's back to Osawage and Olive.
All right, thank you very much, Adebola. Of course, security still is one of the biggest conversations here in Nigeria. You did share, bits of updates, from Nabiha's story, and I did, get to see also the First Lady put out a message or a tweet yesterday, commemorating or rather condoling with the family and, of course, those who have been affected. I think they're called the Al-Qadiria family. But she did, of course, come under a lot of criticism from Nigerians for those who said that, if there wasn't any Twitter outrage, I'm sure that she wouldn't have put out that tweet in the first place. They would have acted like it didn't matter, it wasn't happening. And at the same time, there's many other people who were also involved that were also kidnapped that, weren't even, mentioned. It almost feels like she was basically just taking advantage of Nabiha's story to put out that tweet. So we're hoping that these people are released. We still have those sisters in captivity, amongst other people that were also taken from that estate. And other people also were kidnapped along the Enugu-Benue Expressway, in Nasarawa State, in Sokoto, and many other places.
And there's the Ario family as well that,
yes,
made it to social media, who are also asking for money to be able to raise the ransom. Their daughter has allegedly been killed as well. So it's just a number of stories. I'm starting to lose track of the number of kidnap cases. It now seems that it's the order of the day. And the fear here is, whilst it is important that we do everything within our power to ensure that when one of us is kidnapped, that the person returns back to us safe and alive, there's also the fear and the concern that we're indirectly now going to see a spur in the business of kidnapping, because they can see that Nigerians can rally around, crowdfund and source for funds to send to them. And I wonder if, now is not the time for us to look at ways in which these monies can be traced. If Nigerians are pulling together monies, can they not be traced if they're given to the kidnappers? What's the mode of transaction between the victims and the kidnappers? It's just a very scary place that we are in. It's like we're in between the devil, the literal devil and the deep blue sea. That's where we are.
No, talking about tracing money, and let me just mention this, that Olumuyiwa Adejobi, the police force spokesperson, about a year ago or 2 years ago, was bragging on Twitter that you can track anybody down in 2 hours in Nigeria. You can find anybody.
And I believe that they can.
Yes, I mean, so he was saying that, to people who he was responding to on Twitter, bragging, and basically threatening them to let them know that anybody can be found in 2 hours, a couple of hours in Nigeria.
And
so it makes absolutely no sense.
And also, this makes me wonder. The rise in insecurity, it makes me wonder, is it lack of political will or lack of manpower or equipment or just sheer intentionality? Because if you talk about it being able to be tracked easily, it makes me wonder, what then is our government doing? What then are security agencies doing when it comes to tracking or, getting these culprits to book?
I think it's a combination of all three that you mentioned. Lack of political will, lack of equipment, and of course, maybe also some complicity, in it.
A lot of complicity.
There's no way that you're going to convince me or any other person that Nigerian police, with the way that they're currently structured or funded or whatnot, aren't able to figure out exactly, through intelligence gathering, who is responsible or where these people are and where they take them to. By speaking to victims, by tracking the money, by following these numbers, with all the NIN, process that Nigerians went through. So it's hard to convince anybody that these things have been going on for so long. And it's another thing just that is mind-boggling with the fact that we spent 8 years under President Muhammadu Buhari, all right? We were, seemingly celebrating the reduction in Boko Haram and ISIS and the likes. And then, of course, you just went haywire. Now it's banditry, it's kidnapping, it's Boko Haram and everything. So in what ways did we improve security in the last 8 years? In what ways? That we have gotten to a place where kidnapping now is flourishing. It's a big business. They, at this point, should register with, the stock exchange market or something. They're flourishing. So it means that they've basically seen that there's either a lot of complicity in some way, shape, or form, or they've seen that the police is, completely beat down.
Compromised even.
There's something wrong.
The police is even compromised themselves.
I don't want to say that they are, but, it's possible that these things are also part of the problem. And if we do not interrogate them further, that's why we have leadership, or we're meant to have leadership.
Again, would ask, what is the value of the Nigerian life? And when will Nigerians actually be able to say that they feel safe and secure? Because now it's no longer people being kidnapped on the streets or when they display their locations. They've told us to stop sharing locations. They've said, employed all the security tactics. But you can literally be in the comfort of your home, just like the unfortunate situation of Nabihara and her siblings. And in the comfort of your home, they will break down your walls and break down your door, come in, kidnap you and your family. So where really is safe? If the Federal Capital Territory, the capital of the giant of Africa, is unsafe, where really is safe? It's just a matter of time.
And just to lay clarity to my, reference to the police, a friend of mine whose younger brother was kidnapped said they called the police. And they told them, you know what, go pay the ransom. There is nothing we can do. Yeah. How sad.
I've heard similar stories like that.
Anyway. Bola, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again at 9 a.m.
Glad to be here.
Right, this is still Breakfast Central. Very sad stories that we're looking at. And it's just the start of the year. One wonders what the rest of the year would look like. It's just the second week in January, and we know how many murders, how many killings and kidnappings have happened already. We're going to break, and when we come back, we'll be looking at some more stories this morning on Breakfast Central. As part of our responsibilities to hold the leaders to account and to ensure that we ask the questions that matter every morning on Breakfast Central, we have Which Way Nigeria? And this morning, let's talk about trust. Trust between the government and the people. So Nigerian leaders, at least the ones who care. The question is, do you think that Nigerians trust you? If no, why do you think that Nigerians have zero trust in you? At least you've been voted into office. by these people who love you, who believed in you, who woke up early hours of the day and went out and stood in the sun and fought for their mandate. Well, these same people you claim that love you don't seem to trust you. They don't believe in your words. And no press statements or addresses by your spokesperson will ever fix that. Now, if you've asked why, I'd like to tell you a few reasons. But let's first start by showing you some clips. Let's take a look at this video. Now, this video that we're about to show you is a video of a minister of the FCT who, on a Sunday morning, was dancing and singing with others in Rivers State. Days after dozens were kidnapped in the FCT. You would think that all is well and that the FCT is flowing with milk and with honey with the way that he's dancing. But no, look at it. It is currently the part of Nigeria with the most frequent and the most daring kidnap cases. But look at the joy in this video, the celebration. The question is, what exactly are they celebrating? Whilst young girls are being slaughtered because ransom is not being able to be raised. How does anyone take a look at this video and not feel totally betrayed? How is it that the lives and the protections of those Nigerians currently in captivity in their own country isn't the most important thing on the mind of those in leadership positions? How is the leader of my state dancing when kids and family members are staring death in the eye? Well, Nyesom Wike is one. Let's look at a tweet by the First Lady of Nigeria, Oluremi Tinubu. And in this tweet, some would argue that this tweet was only posted because of outrage shown by Nigerians after Nabiha's death. But then again, that's subject to argument. But look at this tweet. She says, "It is with a heavy heart that I acknowledge the devastating loss of Nabiha, and I extend my deepest condolences to her grieving family. In difficult moments like this, I urge the nation to join in fervent prayers for the safe return of these girls. Let us hold the families of those close to our hearts in prayers. I implore our security agencies to intensify their efforts in addressing the pressing matter of kidnappings and insecurity in our nation. The safety and swift return of the Al-Qadriya sisters and others in captivity should be our paramount concern. To the parents, especially mothers, I appeal for intensified prayers for our children and for peace to prevail in our country, in our beloved country. May the Almighty God comfort the Al-Qadriya family for their loss, and may God bring the other children back home safely. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria." And one would wonder, how much more prayers are we going to keep issuing before we finally see the change that we deserve in this country? Now, some would argue, like I did say earlier, that this tweet was put out because of the outrage shown by Nigerians after Nabiha's death and the issues surrounding her family still in captivity. But here's the thing. Nabiha and her family weren't the only ones taken. Reports say that many others were taken from their estate, and other cases were reported in the last few weeks in Abuja and elsewhere across the country. So is the First Lady really not aware of the others? I mean, some would argue that this shows lack of concern about the situation, but a bid to save face because of the outcry from Nigerians. To think that you can literally be sitting in your house and then they will break through the doors and the windows and come in and get you. You no longer have to be on the road to be at risk. Now let's go back to more dancing. Now this is a video, that right here, a video we're about to play is the governor of Akwa Ibom State, Umoino, also dancing away on Sunday. Again, you would see these things and imagine that all is well and good nationwide and that there's absolutely no reason to be worried. But sadly, that's not our reality. Of the 8 UCOR members who were kidnapped in August 2023 on their way to Sokoto State, the last report about them was that on the 8th of December, when 2 more were released, leaving 4 behind. Till date, there has been no updates on those 4 still in captivity. Umoino's Twitter page has 0 tweets on anything kidnap related. But yes, we have a video of him dancing in church. So, again, Nigerian leaders, why don't your people trust you? It's because of things like this. It's the way that you show 0 empathy for the tears of Nigerians. It's your approach of leadership or your approach to leadership that feels like once you build 2 bridges and you commission 7 transformers and in some cases a toilet, you can call yourself Mr. Project and have your supporters praise you. And that's good enough. You can release tone-deaf press statements that mostly show you have 0 compassion on the grasp of the issues at hand. Nigerians don't trust their leaders. They don't trust you to make their lives better because you don't act like you care about them. Nigerians flood churches to pray for a lifeline to survive each passing day because they know that help isn't coming from those they voted for. What would it take to just show some compassion? What would it take to simply value the Nigerian citizen who went out and voted for you? How expensive is empathy? And even if it was priced in currency, Nigerians are sure you can afford it. What part of the current reality of the Nigerian life is there to dance about? Why did you fight and campaign for leadership if you can't be bothered to care for the Nigerian citizens? So no, Nigerians don't trust you. And again, press statements won't buy that trust. And there is my 1 cent for now. We're going to break, and after the break, we'll be talking about maximizing your full potential in 2024. I mean, let's hope that we'll be there, safe and sound, to be able to maximize our potential if the leaders do the needful. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. The new year is not just a change of dates, it's an invitation to dream, to plan, and to prepare your destiny, some would say. Having a roadmap is like having a powerful ally in your corner, guiding you towards success. It's your compass directing you toward your goals and aspirations, providing a sense of purpose and clarity while ensuring that every step you take aligns with your desired destination. Researchers say that people who set clear goals for themselves are 10 times more likely to achieve them, while those without a roadmap risk wandering, missing out on opportunities, and feeling adrift in the sea of possibilities. This morning on Breakfast Central, we'd like to reflect on the importance of having a plan for the new year ahead. And our guest is performance strategist Abiola Champ. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Happy New Year, great to be here.
You're very pumped and very excited. We could borrow a little of your excitement and share around the nation because there's not been a lot of excitement. And I mean, for obvious reasons. Regardless of the challenges that we're dealing with, last year was a very tough year. So there are people who are already coming into the new year saying, all the things I set out to achieve last year, I didn't even achieve it. So there's no point in making a plan for 2024. So how important, is it really important to have a plan for 2024, or should people just revisit their plans for 2023?
So, great question, and it's good to be here once again. The conversation around how to make the best out of the new year, it's always about beginning with a plan. While you had some plans, I'm careful to call it goals, so I will say plans. While you might have some plans that didn't work out in 2023, it's easy to blame it on external factors. It's easy to blame it on the economy. It's easy to blame it on the political landscape. But if we check carefully, there are perhaps some things that we could have done better that did not allow us to achieve those plans. First is, at times, we don't really set goals. We can have wishes, we can have hopes, we can have prayers, but we don't really set goals. Well, what is a goal? A goal is something that you want to achieve, that you describe in a simple way that you can understand it, and whoever the collaborators, the people that can work with you on achieving it, because you can't achieve greatness alone, the people that can work with you kind of understand it. So it is that simple. I mean, we all know that smart thing that we throw around, simple, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely, and we throw it around, but we don't necessarily always pay attention to really looking at it that, okay, in 2023, for example, I want to achieve X by what time exactly? And doing what exactly? Who do I need to work with to help me to achieve it? What do I need to learn more to help me to achieve it? And so if we check well, there are certain things we could have done better to help us to achieve those goals. Now, we're not in any way saying that the economic realities don't have their impact. We're not in any way saying that the political landscape doesn't have its impact. But when we set goals and we plan, it's easier for us to navigate the miles, it's easier to navigate, those dangerous corners, the curveballs, that other things happening in the society can throw to us.
Is there also any sense in assessing your goals, and then saying to yourself that, okay, this is what I had imagined, But I'm going to have to, maybe paint the picture different, and redirect myself in the new year, because this might be either more achievable or, would benefit me more. Is there any sense in that?
Great question. So there's a place of flexibility. The fact that I've set out not in January, in November, I always plan my new year in November. So the fact that I planned in November of the previous year that this is what I want to achieve in the new year, I still want to be attuned with the times and the things that are going on and continue to tweak and tweak. And I cited an example for you last year. One of the new things we did in our organization, CHAMP, was an international leadership boot camp. Our goal was to hold it somewhere in Lagos, Nigeria. We continue to engage the market, we continue to have conversations, and then that led us to hosting it in East Africa, finally. So what was our goal? To engage senior leaders at a boot camp, a 4-day boot camp. And while that is our goal, based on the realities of the market and what the people we're serving really wanted, we tweaked it and ensured that we still deliver greatness. So there's the place of flexibility.
Yeah.
All right.
Talk us a little bit about failure. And why that maybe is also important, in the journey ahead. In what ways should failure motivate or demotivate you?
So while none of us want to fail, we all want to make sure that even with our least effort, we are getting the best results. But failure is a reality. Yeah. And when it happens, it means that you set out, you thought you would achieve something, but you did not achieve it. It might feel as if you've wasted time, you've wasted energy, you've wasted some money, but what to look at is, are there lessons, in this? What are the lessons? And many times, because we concentrate more on the feeling of failure, on the feeling of rejection, on how people will perceive us because what we had said we would deliver, we couldn't deliver it, then we miss out on the lessons that we can learn, from failure. So when I fail at something, I'm asking myself, what could I have done better? What did I miss out? Who could I have spoken to? What should I have learned that I did not learn? And with that, you don't take failure. Failure should never go to waste. Anytime we fail, we want to maximize the opportunity in failure to see what did I learn, what can I do better next time. And failure should not cripple us from moving ahead. Failure should not stop us from trying again. Failure should rather motivate us to tweak and tweak till we get it right.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the factors that can ensure that we're not able to achieve some of these goals that we've set. The number of us, and how far should we dream? I know there's a SMART model, right, which you've made reference to, but how far should we dream? There's the element of those who will tell you that, oh, you should have dreams that are bigger than you, and then there are those who will tell you that this dream is too big. It's far from achievable. So it's a two-in-one question. Factors that could impede one from achieving one's goal for 2024, and how big. Is there a limit to how big one should dream?
Okay, so we can take the question together. The first thing that comes to mind is unrealistic expectations. So just imagine somebody in January of 2024 saying that I want to become a surgeon by December 2024. And then this person didn't even study anything medical sciences. It's unrealistic because based on the curriculum and what is said, you need to be you need to be in a school learning for some 5 or 6 years, depending on what part of the world that you are in. So unrealistic expectation is one of those things. And are we now saying that the person should not dream big? No. We're saying that dream big in the context of the realities. And perhaps, maybe there's some intervention now that you don't need to spend 6 years or 7 years in school, to become a surgeon, and then you want to seek that out. If there is, then look for it. If there is none, then you commit to the process that will equip you to be that surgeon that you want to be. So there is no limit to how far we can dream. There's just a limit to how far we can implement. And that implementation is based on our skills and our commitment to personal development. You see, the biggest thing about goals is not even the achievement of those goals. The biggest thing about goals is who you become based on what you are pursuing. The kind of person that you become, the way you are pursuing that goal. And I'm not saying that becoming wealthy, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not necessarily talking about becoming famous, but I'm talking about the discipline of delivering on the goals. You and I know that there are people that when they got into a new year, they said, this year, I will spend every week at the gym. And then they probably started the first week and the second week and the third week, somebody smiling in the studio. I hope it's not a case of being guilty.
Just to put it out there, because as you're saying, my producer is shouting shots fired, which I don't know who you are firing the gym shots to, but I've been swimming at least three times every week.
Great.
So shame on the bad people who think that I won't work out.
That's why you get a gift. You're getting
Thank
a gift.
you.
You're getting
Thank
a
you
gift
very
from me
much.
right now.
Thank you.
So it's about that discipline. The biggest thing is not about achieving the goal. It's about that discipline. Last year, I had a couple of goals, that I had set. And it's about delivering on some experiences, some events. We had a Peak Performing Woman of the Year. We had the Peak Performer recognition. In delivering all of this, we delivered excellence. But it's not just about delivering on those goals. It's about who we became, myself and my team, the things that we learned, how we grew from 1 to 10. So that's the biggest thing about goals. So the things that impede people from pursuing goals, 1, unrealistic expectations, 2, indiscipline and commitment to achieving that.
So I'm glad that you've mentioned that indiscipline part, because I realize that the biggest challenge a number of us face is discipline, but not just, it's self-discipline. So how do people get to the point where they've achieved a mastered self-discipline? And what is the role of maybe like life coaches and, people within that space in helping to hold people accountable?
None of us is smart. Every one of us, we are smart as the influences we subject ourselves to. Now, whether you are conscious of the influences you are subjecting yourself to or not, you are being influenced, which is why it is important to look for platforms that can influence you and help you to achieve this goal, that can help you to become disciplined, which is why it's important to have executive coach, to have a life coach, which is why it's important when you hear that there is a seminar, to learn, to grow on something, which is why you want to invest in it. There are free seminars, but I won't even go to free seminars because I know that I'm not getting, there's no way you get the very best of the chunk that you really need. Of course, I might give you some freebies to go away with, but if you are really committed, and the word is commitment, not interest, but if you are really committed to growth, you will seek out a life coach. You seek out events, seminars that can help you to become disciplined. You will seek out not just to buy books, not just to read them, but to apply the books when you read them. You will listen to shows like this where there are conversations going on. And not just to listen, as you are listening to what I'm saying, you are writing down, you are noting what it is that you want to change, what it is that you want to stop doing, what it is that you want to start doing. Because none of us is smart. Every one of us, we are smart as the influences we subject ourselves to. And we are being influenced every day. So you want to help yourself by positioning yourself on platforms with people as well that can influence you to help you to gain that discipline. There are some of us while we were in school, we were not that serious students, but we had some friends who were always studying. And because that's the kind of company we kept as at that time, it helped us to move from unserious students, to A students. So it's important that we surround ourselves with the right platforms.
Yeah. You have an event coming up in a couple of days. So share a little bit about that, and then also talk about taking your steps and stages, little bits here and there, saying, okay, I want to, have this done by March. I want to have this done, by the end of, the first quarter and on all of that, and how that helps, build, goals for a person.
Fantastic. So about the event, I will call it Rock 2024 like a champion. What does it mean to rock 2024 like a champion? Is to ensure that the new year, your results in the new year is far better than your results for the previous year. It is mediocrity if what you are delivering in 2024 is the same thing you deliver in 2023. And so we've put this together to equip people with the right knowledge, skills, attitude, and give them a roadmap that will help them in their careers, in their businesses alike. And speaking to baby steps, there are times that the goal that you've set is so big that it excites you, but the excitement alone is not enough. It is important that you can break them down into little steps that you can take. So for example, let me go back to that medical, I don't know why that medical thing is what's coming up this morning. Let me go back to that medical example. So you want to achieve something by December, you want to earn this particular certificate by December. What are the things you need to start to do now? Do you want to study for 2 hours a week, every week? And do you want to scale that so that maybe by second quarter, you increase it to 4 hours a week? Such that by the time you are writing the exam, you are home and dry. Whatever goal that it is a financial goal that you're saying that by the end of the year, you want to have a billion naira. I like the sound of a billion. That you want to have a big, think big. That you want to have a billion naira, but also be realistic. You know, so they want to have $1 billion naira at the end of December. We're not waiting till December to clock that billion. So you want to pace it. You want to pace it. You want to pace yourself. You want to say, you want to face it and say that, okay, I want to do this in 12 months. 1 billion divided by 12. What can I deliver in January? And what can I deliver in February? If I don't deliver January, should I increase my run rate for February? And then for March, for April, till the end of the year? So no matter how big it is, what I say is that how do you eat an elephant? It's in piecemeals. So no matter how big it is, what is it that you want to start doing today? Back to that gym example, right? Say you want to have summer body by summer. You want to go somewhere. I don't know if I'm still firing shots, you know, but, you know, but what you want to do is to say, okay, 1 hour, 2 hours, if it's every day, if you have that luxury, or if it's every week, and you do it, and that baby steps, it said that little drops makes an ocean. That baby steps helps you, you know, to achieve your goal.
Okay, so rock
2024
like
like
a
a
champion. How can people be a part of it? Where is it happening? Are you streaming live on social media? What are the details we need to know about it?
Okay, fantastic. So it's a hybrid session. So people will be live in class, and then people can join via Zoom. And for anybody that's interested in that, the website is www.abiolachamp.com. You can send a mail to, there's a lady waiting on the other side. Her name is Priska. hello@abiolachamp.com. You know, and she'll be more than willing to attend to you. It's happening on the island on the 20th of January. That's this Saturday.
Oh, wow.
You know, and you can follow me at Abiola Champ on all social media platforms. Send a DM, and hey, just tell me that you watch this on News Central, and who knows, you may get a discount.
All right. Abiola Champ, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
we
you.
hope that we can have you in January 2025, and then when we reflect, we realize that we rocked 2024 like a champion.
Wait, just before you go, does it mean that no matter how much of the 6:30 morning prayers that I do, if I don't set proper goals, I wouldn't achieve anything?
You see,
These shots that you're firing.
I just want people to, so we're talking about be realistic now,
Yeah.
okay? So if I wake up every morning 6:30 and I join the online morning prayers, right? And I do the I don't want to call the name, all right? Every morning. And I'm fasting, they say 21 days, I'm doing 42 days. I'm fasting 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. even. Will I still be, make that 100 million this year?
so you see, there's the place of prayer.
Yeah.
There's the place of positive confessions, but there's also the place of work.
Well,
There's the place of diligence, and what we found is that a lot of people, are consumers of hope, anything about hope. But it's not just about hope, it's about discipline and ensuring that we work. So that's the response to that.
Okay,
all
that's
right.
what it comes
Abiola Champ, thank you very much for
You're
that.
welcome.
And Osage, thank you for highlighting a very important point.
Oh, it is.
Well, we will go on the break. When we come back from the break, there's more to talk about this morning on Breakfast Central. Stay with us. Welcome back. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu yesterday laid wreath as a mark of honor to soldiers who paid the ultimate price with their lives at the National Arcade in Abuja. This was part of celebrations to mark the 2024 Armed Forces Remembrance Day in the nation's capital. News Central's Amadi Uyi has more.
The event commenced at the National Arcade in Abuja with a parade by 7 military personnel and veterans of the Nigerian Army. In attendance were the leadership of the military and senior government officials. President Bola Tinubu shortly arrived at the venue. From there, he proceeded with leaders of the judiciary and legislature where they pay their last respects to soldiers that have paid the ultimate price with their lives by the laying of wreaths. After them, President Tinubu released the ceremonial white pigeons as a symbol of peace.
Put your hands together, please. Thank you. Thank you.
The event ended with a change of guards ceremony. Amadi Uyi, reporting for News Central.
And of course, we send condolences to families who have lost men and women, of course, of the Nigerian Armed Forces over the years to, of course, protecting Nigeria and keeping us safe. And of course, we appreciate your service also.
Yes, I think that in all fairness, there's much more we need to do. Laying wreath on Armed Forces Remembrance Day is great, but we need to prioritize the welfare of our armed forces. Yes, there's a lot of expectation on them, but also they need to be able to guarantee that they are adequately taken care of, that their families are adequately taken care of. I think the first time I properly understood the sacrifice that they made was in the movie, shout out to Nollywood, and the movie was, I think, 76. Watching that movie and seeing that when you lose a partner, or potentially lose a partner, or someone who's going to serve, there's the risk that every time they go out to the war front, the number of movies, there's Soldier Story as well. Every time they go out, they may not come back. So for every time you agree to marry a person who's a member of the armed forces, there's the risk that one day they can go and not come back because they've gone to defend the territorial integrity of the nation. So thank you to them. And we hope that the government will do more to provide for them, provide for insurance for them and their family members going forward. But these conversations will not stop having. Let's share a recap of the conversations we've had this morning.
Yes, we did speak with Abiola Champ on the roadmap to winning in 2024.
And of course, there's an event coming up shortly. Follow him to find out more information about that. Nigeria's inflation rates rises to 28.9%. We didn't take that in the news.
The Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration, of course, showing President Bola Tinubu laying the wreath. But that's not all this morning. We have a bit more coming your way in the second half of Breakfast Central. Let's quickly share with you what's coming up next. Insecurity, PCC calls for state of emergency in Abuja.
Reawakening Nigerians' reading culture is a very important conversation to have.
And we'll take you through the newspapers this morning, share with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now let's take you through the newspapers, share with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning. We're kicking off with This Nigeria, and it says here, don't worry about Japa, we'll trade more, says President Tinubu. It says, with me, there's hope. Of course, the president promises to prioritize education and healthcare. I'm not sure how true that would be if you look at what the budget is for those two items. Education and healthcare. How do you prioritize it? But once again, don't worry about Japa. And if you remember, we also heard similar statements from Chris Ngige, if you remember, when there were complaints about people leaving Nigeria under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. The brain drain. He did say back then, that there wasn't any need for cause for alarm, rather, and that Nigeria has enough doctors and will continue to train more and whatnot. But yes, once again, don't worry about Japa. We'll train more, says Tinubu. FCTA workers kick against posting of new permanent secretary. Also, federal government shouldn't get tired of fending for 7 retired soldiers, says the Nigerian Legion. And that's, I'm guessing, is from the Armed Forces Remembrance Day. Nigeria's inflation rate ended 2023 at 28.92%, says the NBS. CCB invites Minister of Interior Tunji Ojo over 438 million naira contract scandal, 3.6 billion naira fraud. EFCC arrest ex-commerce minister Ugu. And also 2024, food vendor embarks on Lagos to Ibadan trek. Must be really overfed. These are the big stories on this Nigerian newspapers. Now let's, quickly, I think we're going to probably start with one of the stories here. The Japa story, of course, I believe that would be the one that we'll start with. Mr. Amechi, Mr. Ikechukwu Amechi, who's joining us from the niche newspapers. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Always my pleasure. Good morning.
All right. The president says, Nigerians shouldn't be worried about those who are living in droves, to find greener pastures outside Nigeria because, they'll train more doctors, train more, engineers, train more lawyers and the likes. Do you agree with him?
I don't. But then, of course, what do you expect President Bola Tinubu to say? Of course, he can't do anything to stop the mass exodus of some of our most talented young people, some of our most educated young people. So he will say what he has just said. And just like you said, when Dr. Ngige was Minister of Labor and Productivity, he did say the same thing, that Nigerians have enough doctors, and therefore, those that want to leave can go. But of course, we know that it is not true. Nigeria does not have enough doctors, and particularly health sector personnel, not only doctors, nurses, radiographers, and all that. When our leaders make statements like this, you begin to wonder. Yes, some people have argued that the Japa syndrome is not necessarily a death sentence on Nigeria, because at the end of the day, the money they remit back to the economy is also what keeps the Nigerian economy going. But the truth of the matter is that we don't have the right quality of personnel to carry on in our domestic economy. You go to hospitals now, you don't see the doctors, you don't see the nurses. You go to the banks, most of the guys in the IT department are gone, and all that. Yeah. Even in the universities, the lecturers are leaving. Those that are still here, perhaps those that are super committed or those that can't go, but people are leaving. So you're saying they can go, that we will train more. How many more people are we training every year? And how can you spend the resources of the nation training, for instance, doctors? And at the end of the day, other economies take them, and you say you're going to train more. So at times when our leaders say some of the things they say, you ask yourself what informs.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also completely ignoring the reason that they're even leaving in the first place. Because if you don't fix that, as much as you train, they would also leave, and there doesn't seem to be any realization that there is reasons they are leaving. And it's not just doctors; it's bankers, it's IT technicians, like you've mentioned. It's teachers. Everybody.
Our leaders live in denial, and that's we live a lie.
Yeah.
In this country, and that is what accounts for this seeming not being able to know what the real issues are. Because, like you've now pointed out, as long as the prevailing economic situation subsists, people will go.
Yeah. The economic situation, the kidnapping, it's on the rise. If Nabiha and a family, well, unfortunately, we've lost her. But, if that family sees an opportunity to leave Nigeria now, amongst other people who are close to them, they would leave tomorrow morning. So it's, the government seems to be completely oblivious to the reasons Nigerians are leaving. And, has this arrogance, that, all of you can
and you just mentioned the Nabihar case and the kidnappings going on in Abuja and the killings, I don't know how our leaders manage to pretend as if nothing is going on. You just mentioned the jamboree that went on in Owerri yesterday in the name of inauguration. Everybody was there. The president was there. The Senate president was there. The Speaker of the House of Representatives was there. Governors were there. At a time
when the nation is supposed to be mourning.
When the nation is supposed to be mourning. They were there clinking champagne glasses and celebrating. And you ask yourself, celebrating what? And it is, look, because we see public service as an opportunity not to serve, but an opportunity for self-aggrandizement. If not, if you seize public office from the prism of service, you don't have to throw all these parties. In any other country that I can think of, where a young lady was murdered and the so-called kidnappers or whatever, the bandits, had the effrontery to do what they did and jacked up the ransom from 60 million now to 100 million, so that each of the remaining 5, you have to pay 20 million. And the government is not bothered. Instead, we are celebrating. You know, I am pained because I am a personal victim of this. And I know the horror. I know what it means. I can feel what that young lady's family is going through now. Because about 3 or 4 years ago, my 79-year-old mother was kidnapped. And we paid. A retired school teacher was taken away, taken into the bush at 79 years. And for good 4 or 5 days, I was on the phone negotiating with the kidnappers. The police did not come to my aid. DSS did not come to my aid. The only advice they gave to me is that, look, pay. Yes, I'm not joking. Pay. The only thing we are telling you is that don't ever promise what you can't pay. Don't, out of panic, say you're going to pay 10 million if you can't afford 10 million. Because when you do that, and it is time to pay and you begin to renegotiate, they will say you are taking them for granted. Your mother may be in harm's way. And we paid. So when things like this happen, I am talking from somebody who has had a very, very personal experience. Nigeria is failing its citizens every day. Nigeria is failing its citizens every day. Last 2 weeks ago, I wrote in my column that in the next 1 month, nobody will be talking about the Plateau killings. Is anybody talking about the Plateau killings again?
Oh, no, it's gone.
All of us have moved on.
It's gone.
And those about 20,000 people who were displaced and who have joined the IDP camps, go and check. People have taken over their ancestral homes in Nigeria. And we say Nigeria is not failing.
Anyway, we'll move away from this Nigeria, see what other papers that we have this morning.
All right, let's go to our next paper. The next paper this morning is the Guardian newspaper. On the front page of the Guardian newspaper, we can see the big story there. And the big story says, Federal 2024 oil production, federal government strained to meet 650 million barrels target over crude-backed loans. Nigeria's oil output lowest in decades. You can see the graph plummeting from 1998, I believe, to 2023. That's a reflection of where we started. We were at 22, increased at some point to 24, and now have fallen short, struggling, really, really struggling. Still on the front page, we have 7 richest Africans wealthier than poorest half of continent's population on page 3. NNPCL shops for net worth investors to manage Port Harcourt refinery on page 3. Federal government's 35,000 wage award remains till new minimum wage, NLC declares. Tinubu leads Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration. Nigeria's inflation ends 2023 at 28.9% as Naira anxiety worsens outlook. Reconsider INEC budget for accountability and democracy. That's an editorial on page 12. Minister orders discos to supply transformers to communities. Incessant kidnappings unsettle Abuja residents. I think that's all the stories that we have here. So, of course, I'll have you react to the big story, which is federal government's trained to meet 650 million barrels target over crude-backed loans. We'll start with that, and then maybe we'll take in one more story.
This is money that we have eaten even before, because you go and borrow money and then use crude oil as collateral for payment so that you pay up these loans from the crude oil. But now we are finding it difficult because we can't even produce enough crude oil. We are not meeting up with our quota because of the insecurity and the oil theft in the Niger Delta. We are not meeting up with even our quota, OPEC quota. So what this story is simply saying, that the 650 million barrels that is needed to pay for the loans we have already taken. And don't forget, now some of these loans were money that was borrowed for consumption.
Yep.
Those that were used by the so-called Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. All this slush money that are being shared every day, that is what this is. So we have already spent this money, and now it is becoming increasingly difficult to even produce the crude oil with which to pay now for the loan. So all these things, I think they all account for the problems the Nigerian economy is facing. Yesterday, we were told by the Bureau of Statistics that inflation is at all-time high. In fact, in the last 27 years, we've not had this kind of inflation, about 29%. The food inflation is well over 30%, about 33 or 34%. And there is, look, when President Bola Tinubu goes around to say that he's turning the corner as far as the economy is concerned, I ask myself, how? What actually is being done to improve this economy right now? And I don't see any. As long as there is this pressure on the Naira, as at yesterday, a Canadian dollar was changing for 967 Naira, Canadian dollar, that barely 7 months ago was no more than 300 Naira. And of course, now the dollar itself is about 1.2, 1.3, 1,200, and
260 to 70.
So how can you, for an economy that is import dependent, how can inflation come down? It is, I don't know the magic wand they have, but we are all waiting. 7 months down the road, out of the 48 months for the first tenure, we are waiting to see what magic that is being done. But as far as what they have done so far, I don't see how we are going to get out of this mess.
Well, you see, he did say it in Imo State that the country is pregnant, because of course he's an orator. The country is pregnant. The time of labor is the most painful, and after labor comes childbirth. And the pain is gone. So we're currently experiencing labor pain.
So 2 more months.
I don't know who got the country pregnant.
I just wish it won't be a stillbirth at the end of the day.
A valid wish. Right.
All right, let's go to the Daily Trust newspapers this morning and see what we can find over there. Just quickly, 438 million naira contract. Interior Minister faces CCB today. Olubumi Tunji-Ojo. 5 bodies recovered, scores missing as boat carrying 100 capsizes in Niger State. Residents flee as bandits attack military camp in Katsina. Interesting. Armed Forces Remembrance Day. Tinubu Akpabio, governors honor fallen heroes. And of course, top of the screen there says, save Nigerians from kidnappers. Most of the conversations here, security, related. Bandits attacking military camps in Katsina, of course, Armed Forces Remembrance Day, Interior Minister facing CCB, and of course, save Nigerians from kidnappers. I think we could just let you go at will to any of them that, you would like to speak on. All of them, of course, very, very interesting, I believe.
Well, you see, I think I must commend the Daily Trust this morning for the editorial, Save Nigerians from Kidnappers, and of course, making it a front page issue, because that emphasizes the importance they attach to that issue. Look, the issue of kidnapping, and if you consider what is happening in the Federal Capital Territory, that is supposed to be the safest part of this country, and what is going on in Abuja is writ large. As we speak, the 6 or 7 youth couples that were kidnapped over 100 and something days ago,
Yes, from Akwa Ibom,
are still in captivity. And nobody is talking about...
People they refer to as the property of the federal government.
Exactly. And nobody is talking about them again. There are still students all over the country, from Niger State, from Zamfara, that are still in captivity. Don't forget that the Chibok girls that nobody is still talking about, for whatever it is worth, some of them are still in captivity. Don't forget that the young lady, and what is her name again?
Leah Sharibu.
Leah Sharibu, is still in captivity. And nobody seems to pay a price for all this. Those that attacked the Kaduna-Abuja train, after paying those humongous ransom, what happened to them? Were they arrested? Were they neutralized? Not to use the language of the army. What happened? And we're talking about the Nabiha case. Kidnappers or bandits or whatever they are called took a man and his 6 daughters and said, after a couple of days, let the man go, and so that he can go and raise 60 million, 10 million ransom on each of those girls. Poor civil servant couldn't raise that, raised 30 million. And the guys got angry and said, come and take your message. And the message was killing of one of those daughters. In a country, and nobody seems to have a clue who these guys are, where they are coming from, and how to get at them. 3 more people have been killed from the same Abuja, and now they are saying they are raising the distance to almost 700 million. So I don't know, but that editorial, who will save Nigerians from the kidnappers, I think is a most apt editorial. And the government must begin to answer this. It's not enough for the service chiefs, the chief of army staff or the chief of defense staff to come and tell you Nigerians should not bear arms.
Right?
Yeah.
They're pushing people to the wall at this point. People are starting to feel like people are realizing that they are the ones who will provide their own security. We'll have a security expert joining us shortly so we can expand further on the conversation on insecurity. But Ikechukwu Amechi, it's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you. I hope we can have you for more pleasant stories. Just unfortunate, what's in the news lately.
Nigeria is a crime scene, and it is so painful that you wake up in the morning and almost every story you see, there is none that is cheering. There's none that you go through and you say, oh, thank
At least
God.
this is encouraging.
Thank God we are turning the bend. Oh, thank God we are on the right track. All you see, despite all the pronouncements of those in leadership, what you see, the reality is very, very different from what they tell us every day. And I don't know for how long we will go on this trajectory and something won't snap.
All right. We need to go. Thanks again, once again, to Ikechukwu Amechi for stopping by. We will take a short break. When we come back, we're moving to all the conversations happening here on Breakfast Central this morning. Stay with us.
Following the escalating insecurity, abductions, and relentless assaults facing residents of Abuja by bandits, the Commissioner for Police Complaints in the Federal Capital Territory, the FCT, Dalhatu Ezekiel, has urged the federal government to declare a state of emergency in the nation's capital city. Dalhatu made the call during a press briefing in Abuja while lamenting the increased incidents of kidnappings, armed robberies, and violent attacks which have heightened anxiety and fear among residents of Abuja communities.
He appealed to the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, to consider suspending any ongoing projects, if necessary, in order to tackle this crucial issue that directly impacts the lives of FCT residents, while also calling for the establishment of a civilian joint task force as an alternative approach to combat insecurity in rural areas. Joining us this morning is Tony Ofoyeton. He's the Director General, International Institute for Professional Security. Good morning, and thanks for joining us, Mr. Ofoyeton.
Good morning. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. I would start with asking, for those who are calling for, we just heard now of a new task force, to tackle these, spaces of insecurity. Would you say that that's maybe what, Nigeria needs? They need more hands, they need a new security agency, they need a new task force, and some of all of that. Is that what Nigeria currently needs, or does the Nigerian government just needs to be serious, have the political will to actually, fix these issues that we're having with kidnapping and with insecurity, even in the FCT?
Okay, thank you for having me once again. And I want to say that, what is happening in Nigeria is, especially in Abuja, rather, it's a very, big concern to an average Nigerian, more so when it is the Federal Capital Territory of the nation. Having said so, I've actually looked at some of the suggestions that have been made at the call for new security agencies or a committee or intervention. Of course, talking about also trying to empower the police and some security agencies and the like. there is no singular solution to our security challenges. There are different approaches and different solutions, all coming together make a whole that can become a veritable solution. But I think the problem is not really with the solution. The problem is with the players as it is now. Now, why I'm saying that is, if you look at what is happening in Abuja, why is Abuja a major target for kidnapping? Because Abuja is seen as, if in quote, it's seen as the money bag of the nation, where you have even civil servants that are billionaires. That is one aspect of it. Then, of course, what I expect at that point in time is the security agencies, especially DSS now, DSS and all the intelligence agencies, department in all the security agencies have a chunk of the work to do as it is. It's more of intelligence work than even application of force or what you call the kinetic approach. Because now, who are these kidnappers? Where are they staying? Who are those that are backing them? Where do they keep the kidnapped victims? And of course, how do they receive the ransom? How do they move the ransom? At what point in time in all this trajectory has the security agencies, through their intelligence network, been able to nab any of them in the bud? Or not? You see, these are things that are major concern to some of us. It's not just, of course, there are crimes and criminalities all over the world, even in US and other. But the difference is that they are not saying you cannot commit crime, but you most likely will be caught. Now look at Lagos State. I want to use Lagos State as a very good example. It's not as if there are no kidnappers in Lagos State, but Lagos State has been able to establish a tradition. If you kidnap anybody in Lagos State, if the government is aware, the government takes it as if it is it's a very big VIP that has been kidnapped. You see, they come all out, maybe because they want to protect the metropolitan nature of Lagos State. They come all out. Even if you want ransom, the government can go to the extent of paying the ransom, but ensure that you don't live to spend the ransom. But the first thing is get the victim out of that cage. Now, that has also sent signal to the kidnappers to the extent that they know that the government of Lagos State will not take it lightly. What is the government in Abuja doing? Government in Abuja, there are two powers in Abuja, the FCT power and the federal power. Don't forget that, FCT is more or less like a baby under the federal government. So they have these two mights together. Why are they not tracing those that are collecting this ransom? We have had severally in this country where even security agents, security professionals and personnel were involved in kidnapping. So at the end of the day, you look at all these variables, put them on the table. Where is kidnapping now becoming a very big business in Abuja? Because normally kidnapping is either for ransom or for ritual. Now for Abuja, we may downplay the aspect of the ritual part of it in Abuja metropolis. But ransom, why is it that DSS is not taking it as a major project? When DSS takes it as a major project, the whole story will change. But as it is now, maybe because one of the lawmakers has not been kidnapped, or one of the family members of the VIP has not been kidnapped, and as far as they are concerned, it's okay. The government has to take it as a major project. That is the main thing. It's not forming new, new security agencies or departments or body and the like. That would just, it's basically for the purpose of attending to kidnapping. It's too pedestrian, as grave as it is now. The security agencies in Abuja are more than enough to nip this in the bud, clear off all these things. Don't forget that what they do is kidnapping. It could either be because of those that are greedy or kidnapping for terrorism financing. Now, if it's for terrorism financing or if it's merely for greed or criminality, it is the DSS that can answer that question. Those families that have been kidnapped, you can get information from them. Those that are to pay ransom, you can get information from them. Abuja is not so big that you cannot police Abuja. Most of the kidnapping are happening within the suburb of Abuja. So what do? You put your searchlight there. You ensure that at this point in time, Abuja is surrounded by about 8 states. So it's more or less like, and what do you call it, inside about 8 different states. The neighboring states and neighboring borders are escape routes. So I expect that DSS, with the police involvement, especially the DSS and the police, should come all out.
Mr. Foyeton.
Don't believe or assume that because it's civilians, so be it.
Mr. Foyeton, I mean, you've raised some very valid points. You've talked about how you wonder why they're not making it a major project. And you've also said that we have, I mean, from what you're saying, if I hear you correctly, we have adequate manpower to be able to solve the insecurity challenge that the FCT is facing. Let's talk about technology as well. Do we have the necessary technology? And what was the role of the NIN SIM integration in the conversation? I believe you also heard the perspective of Issa Pantami regarding the NIN SIM status. So do we have enough technology? And how can we really hold the government to account to ensure that they do the needful and guarantee the safety and security of Nigerian citizens?
Well, I'm sorry to say, not just this government, even the government before now, there has been high level of laziness, professional laziness on the part of players, some of our players in the government. Now, why am I saying that? Excuse me. When you look at the application of technology in this country, you will see that until it involves a VIP, it is only then you will now see that we have more than enough facilities to be able to attend to some of the security challenges we have. But the person that is going to operate those machines is either lazy, or alternatively, the person that is going to approve the fund for the operation is looking at how much the operation will involve, what is the cost-benefit analysis to him as a person or to them as a group at the end of the day. So if it is not something that is going to bring money to us at the end of the day, why should we bring all our arsenal? Why should we bring out all our machineries and the like? Nigeria, we have drones in this country. We have jet fighters in this country. We have even Tucano and all those stuff in this country. Technology, it's not as if we are bereaved of technology, but we are bereaved of one political will. We are bereaved of, value to human lives. Now, these are major things at the end of the day. Corruption, integrity, vis-a-vis corruption. Now, you look at all these things combined together. Because if you look at what has happened in this country, when the high and the mighty have security challenges, and you are shocked that, so we have a chopper that can, walk through the whole of Abuja, announcing the arrest of a criminal and the like, and all those stuff like that. Now, that is one aspect of it. Now, the banks too are not helping matters. Now, there are policies in the bank. At what point in time will I move some volume of money without the bank notifying or without the bank talking about it, either to CBN or to DSS or to EFCC? Now also, the Ministry of Digital and Communication, you talked about us having BVN, you talked about us having NIN, and you also, I remember they also mentioned that it is also to prevent kidnapping and all those stuff like that. To what extent has this thing been able to work? In some of these organizations, you have a syndicated, look, calls can be traced by all network, all of them. There is no call that cannot be traced. There is no call, none that cannot be traced. There is none that does not have a GPS that can locate the exact location that the kidnappers are. So why is government not coming all out? How much are they going to spend
Mr. Foyeton,
compared to the ransom that is being collected?
Yeah. So from what you're describing now, the government has zero excuses for letting this thing fester for so long and letting it continue, not just in the FCT, even if I don't necessarily agree with your analysis on Lagos and kidnapping here, because there's the same federal government police that works here in Lagos. Lagos doesn't have its own special police force. And of course, the lives in Lagos aren't different from the lives in Enugu or the lives in Benue or the lives in Delta State. Same Nigerian lives. But from what you're saying and what you're describing, would you say that the Nigerian security agencies are complicit? They may be, somehow, some way, might be benefiting from this thing through the back door. And that's why it's difficult to get them to act, to trace these phone calls, to find out the location of these kidnap, gangs, to trace the money and find out where it's going. One of the reasons, of course, people maybe also celebrated the Naira, the change of the Naira, by Governor Emefiele was, it will also help with kidnapping. I'm sure that they mentioned that back then. So if we have all of these things in place, and of course we hear that the police every now and then brag about how they can capture anybody. Nnamdi Kanu was caught even outside Nigeria. There's almost nobody that they cannot trace and catch and capture whenever they need to. So would you maybe say or assume that there's some high level of complicity with Nigeria security agencies, and that's why this thing has continued to fester, and that's why kidnappers are not even so emboldened that they will kill their victims, they will demand higher ransom, and they don't have any fear whatsoever that they would be arrested or that they would be caught?
Well, let me say that I will not indict the security agencies wholly. Rather, I will put more of the blame on the political class, because the security agencies we are talking about, the final decision is not from them. And of course, Mr. President has the final decision. If Mr. President gives the Inspector General of Police and any of the service chiefs the marching order to say, clear kidnappers from this state, from FCT or from Nigeria, if not so, resign, and is able to give them the facilities they need to be able to do the job, it will shock you that that whole thing we are talking about, kidnapping, whether for ransom or ritual, will reduce to the barest minimum. But we are talking of a society where Jonathan then, remember, said, even Boko Haram were in his cabinet. President Buhari didn't talk anything about it. Now we have President Tinubu. How are we sure that they don't have sleeper cells that have been operating and that are even in strategic position and power? Now, sleeper cells are those that are sympathetic to the cause of terrorism. Now, in the cause of being sympathetic, you are talking about terrorism financing. One of the means through which you finance terrorism is through kidnapping for ransom, through taxation of communities and all those stuff like that, and crimes and criminalities. Now, if in the unlikely event that you have any of these people in any strategic position or power in government, they will frustrate the effort of the security agencies. And apart from that too, inside the security agencies too, there are compromised sleeper cells too that divulge information that even lead to the attack. You saw what happened in Castina now. The attack, you call those ones hard attacks, not just hard target attack, military bases. It's something that speaks volume. Now, how were they able to? They have gotten information, and that information was processed to intelligence that now gave them the audacity and the impetus to be able to attack military bases. How did they get this information? Then the military should not look inward. Security agencies should look inward. Who are those that are compromising our information, our strategy, and our strategic approach to all these fights?
Mr.
It's only at that level that I think I will want to say, okay, let the security agencies look at themselves. There are individuals that can be greedy to just, yes, please.
Yeah, so here's the problem. Everybody knows these things. There's nothing, here that is, shocking. Every regular average, even the uneducated, should be able to, figure out these things, that this is a way to handle this thing. And yet, we still see that it's not being handled. We still see that, from what you're describing, these things have been going on, at least for the last 15 years. It's only just getting seemingly worse every now and then. And so, if a government is in office, if President Tinubu has been in office for, a couple of months now, and has still not been able to see it as important enough to give marching orders, if we always have to wait for him to give marching orders, or the heads of security agencies, have seen that they've been in office for long enough and they still are not being able to tackle these things, shouldn't they all resign? What else are they in office for? If they can, I mean, the president was in Imo State over the weekend. So what else are they in office for?
Okay. Well, I'm not a politician, so I will not delve into the political aspect of whether they should resign or they should not resign. I'm a Nigerian. I'm also a security professional. I understand the context from which you are looking at this, that look, if we elected you because we had a problem on ground, and it was one of the agendas you are talking about, trying to solve this problem. And, how many months down the line, we have not seen any improvement. Rather, what we are seeing are things that are either there or even worse than what was there. So what are you waiting for? And all those stuff like that. Now, but I would say that this government has 4 years. I'm not saying that it should be 4 years of tears, 4 years of sorrow, or that we should wait until we are all killed. But I think that, I agree with you to the extent that it is high time the president looked at the possibility of taking some very hard decision, irrespective of whose all is God. And what I expect Mr. President to do is go beyond the press briefing, daily briefing, security briefing that your either the NSA is giving you or your media team are giving you. Go to the people yourself, however you choose to do it, that will secure your life. Hear from the people directly, because in most cases, it is what the media aid want the president to hear, they will relate to him. It is what the NSA, the DSS want Mr. President to hear, that they will relate to him. Some of these things may not get to him, not because he does not want to know, but because by the virtue of what that office carries, he may not have that access to be able to hear, or even some of these conversations we are having. I expect that he should be intentional about getting raw information from the people. It is only at that point in time that he will be able to take some of these hard decisions. Because you are talking of hard decisions that will affect major security heads in this country. Now, if those decisions are taken once, twice, it will send signal to those that are not working the way they ought to work. And it will also send signal to those that are making business out of this terrorism, out of kidnapping and all those stuff, and they are in position or in corridor of power, either because they are charter commanders, or because they are military generals, or because they are high-power security professionals that have such, advantage. Now, if Mr. President is able to go all out, get such raw information and raw data, it's easy for him to take that decision. In the absence of that, we may continue like this. I think the whole buck is going to stop on Mr. President's table. He has to take this hard decision. It is the hard decision that he takes that will send signal to all others that want to follow the same trajectory that we have been following and that has not been helping us.
I hope that,
Having said so,
all right, please, quickly land so we can wrap up, please.
No, I said, but having said so, it is not as if the security agencies too are not doing anything. They are doing a lot. We must give it to them. They are doing a lot. But the resources the government is giving them is not enough for them to come all out. I gave an example. I said, if the son of a VIP is kidnapped, for example,
you'll see more action.
The story will change.
Yeah.
At that point in time, all machineries and funds will be made available.
I mean, you've mentioned that you hope that the president would take such strong action. I hope that he knows that this strong action or this strong statement he needs to make, if he doesn't do it soon, more lives will be lost. Every day we're losing lives in Nigeria, and that's not the Nigeria of our dreams. Mr. Foyetan, thank you so much for joining us this morning on the show.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. It's very sad reports that we have here, detailing the number of lives we're losing by the day as a result of kidnapping and insecurity in Nigeria. Anyway, we'll keep talking about this, but let's share with you what's happening later today.
All right, 1 p.m. West African time, we're bringing you In the Game, of course, to follow up on AFCON.
Politics HQ comes your way at 7 p.m. West African time.
And 9 p.m. West African time, NC Continental Prime.
Thank you for joining us on today's broadcast. We hope everyone stays safe. We'll see you again tomorrow. I am Olive Emodi.
And I am Osaogie Ogbon. See you tomorrow.